Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good morning. In lieu of a devotional today, will you please join me in a moment of silence? Members, we received requests to read 4 House concurrent resolutions that the House and Senate adopted pursuant to the consent calendar. The first is HCR 99, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the 2025 Mount Mansfield Union High School Cougars Boys Division I Championship Nordic Ski Team. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas, throughout the 2 days of the 2025 Nordic Championships in the Division I boys competition, the Cougars were in command on the trails, both in the opening freestyle during the first day at the Craftsbury Outdoor Center and on the second day at the Prospect Mountain Nordic Ski Center in Woodford for the classic skiing. And whereas in Craftsbury, an MMU boy placed second in the 5K race, and the team recorded the best overall score for the day, easily surpassing Champlain Valley Union High School, CVU, 34-85. And whereas, when the teams reassembled at Prospect Mountain, the Cougars placed 3rd and 5th in the individual results and scored first in the relay, skiing past Mount Anthony 38-36.1 to 42.4. And MMU captured the team title, outscoring CVU 67-190. And whereas the Cougars who won the Division I honors were Andres Miguez, Ben Witters, Brady Morgo, Colin Hart, Crosby Waite, Derek Heffel, Devin Axelrod, Farmer Lindmuth, Finn Monahan, Hayden Gilbert, Henry Hoff, Isaiah Bowen, Jack Connell, Jacob Serre, Levi McEntee, Liam Buswell, Liam Rep, Logan Axelrod, Luke Amadon, Mateo Deason Gaillard, Max Wyatt, Roy Powers, Will Hess, and Zell Donovan. And whereas coaches Wiley Picott, Al Sartwell, and Eden Schellenberger were all proud of the Cougar boys. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the 2025 Mount Mansfield Union High School Cougars Boys Division I Championship Nordic Ski Team. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to MMU.
Next is HCR 100, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the 2025 Mount Mansfield Union High School Cougars Division I Championship Girls Nordic Ski Team. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas the 2025 Mount Mansfield Union High School MMU Cougars girls Nordic skiers' agility and athleticism represented both teamwork and individual talent that was showcased at both the Division I Championship freestyle racing at the Craftsbury Outdoor Center and the classic events at Woodford's Prospect Mountain Nordic Ski Center. And whereas in Craftsbury, the Cougars finished first, second, and fourth on the 5K race and departed for home with a commanding 23-62 lead over the second place St. Johnsbury Hilltoppers. And whereas at Prospect Mountain, the fastest 3 individual racers were Cougars, and at the competition's conclusion, MMU claimed a grand victory, outskiing the Hilltoppers 44-120 for Division I honors. And whereas the talented Cougars Nordic skiers were Acadia Enman, Astrid Longstreth, Ava Smith, Avon Kelly, Avery Wood, Ella Campo, Ella McEntee, Kate Campo, Ginny Haggerty, Lena Haggerty, Mia Gorman, Maya Peters, Nia Testanka, Rose Thompson, Riley Morgo, and Seven Bowen. And whereas Cougars coaches Wiley Picott, Al Sartwell, and Eden Schulenberger deserve credit for their leadership and inspiration. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the 2025 Mount Mansfield Union High School Cougars Division I Championship Girls Nordic Ski Team. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to MMU.
Next is HCR 106, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the 2025 Mount Mansfield Union High School Cougars Dance Program on winning a 10th consecutive hip hop state championship. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas under Vermont Principals Association guidelines, high school dance teams compete in 3 categories: jazz, hip hop, and pom. And whereas at the state championship held this year at Virgins Union High School on February 15, 2025, each team was required to compete in 2 of the 3 categories, and each category was limited to a single round in which a team performed a routine consisting of 3 to 20 dancers for a duration of 2 to 2.5 minutes with a recorded musical accompaniment. And a champion was designated for each of the 3 categories. And whereas for the 10th consecutive year, the Cougars ranked supreme in the hip hop category, and they celebrated an additional bonus of achieving first place overall in scoring, narrowly outdistancing second place South Burlington 259 to 253. And whereas the hip hopping Cougars were Sophia Beliza, Maddie Brown, Savannah Cohen, Gabby Cohen, Hazel Fashing, Haley Kaleta, Sarah Katover, Annie Merrick, Zoe Merrick, Anya Muller, Liza Mundell, Munashe Fende, Audrey Rogers, Ariana Stewart, and Zoe Van Dunn. And whereas coaches Rose Bedard, Lisa Rusin, Addie Price, Ella Davis, and Edie Watson were superb guides for the Dancing Cougars. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the 2025 Mount Mansfield Union High School Cougars Dance Program on winning a 10th consecutive hip hop state championship. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to Mount Mansfield Union High School.
And finally, HCR 108 is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the remarkable 4-time state high school individual girls golf champion, Nemo Siebert. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas each autumn, high school boys and girls who are golfing enthusiasts compete for an individual and team state championship laurels. And whereas occasionally a student golfer may be the sole member of their gender on the varsity golf team, requiring them to compete on a solo basis. And undoubtedly the most notable of these individual golfers of late is Mount Mansfield Union High School MMU senior Nemo Siebert. And whereas beginning as a 9th grader, Nemo Siebert has exhibited enormous confidence and skill, whether carefully putting putting to complete a hole, or maximizing her drive from more distance on the course. And whereas with the encouraging support of MMU golf coach Colin O'Brien, Nemo Siebert has developed her own training routine to ensure she is physically and mentally prepared for the annual statewide competition. And whereas her presence at the state championship has been truly remarkable, as Nemo Siebert first shocked her competitors with a 9th grade victory as the girls' individual state champion, and has now reconfirmed her well-earned status as the premier high school girls golfer in Vermont by winning this title for 4 consecutive years. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the remarkable 4-time state high school individual girls golf champion, Nemo Siebert, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to Nemo Siebert.
Are there any announcements? Member from Jericho.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before we recognize these amazing athletes, I just need to change gears for a second. Yesterday, there was an accident on Route 117 in Jericho, and an impaired driver crossed the yellow line and critically injured one of the MMU seniors who is in the hospital, and I'm hoping that we can send some healing energy and well wishes to the student's family.
We wish him a speedy recovery and keeping him in our thoughts and prayers. Are there any further announcements? Member from Jericho.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I just need to note that the people who are the most excited that we're still in session are here in the balcony with us today. And on behalf of the members from Richmond, Underhill, and the 2 members from Waterbury, I'd like to welcome all of the students to celebrate the remarkable achievements of Mount Mansfield Union High School's 2025 state championship teams and individuals. Hailing from Jericho, Vermont, these athletes have demonstrated Jericho and Richmond and Underhill and and Bolton and Huntington. These athletes have demonstrated exceptional dedication, talent, and sportsmanship from across multiple disciplines. We're proud to honor their accomplishments. This year, both the girls and boys Nordic ski teams continued their dominance by capturing back-to-back state championships. Their repeat victories reflect the strength of the Nordic program at MMU. These teams have set a high standard of excellence on snow, and their continued success is a testament to countless hours of training and team unity. In dance, we have not yet recognized them here in the State House. The Cougars delivered another outstanding performance and earned their 10th consecutive state championship title. A full decade of state-level success is a rare and extraordinary achievement, and it speaks volumes about the program's consistency, creativity, and passion. MMU Dance is truly a powerhouse, and their legacy continues to grow with every passing season. We also celebrate an individual milestone in girls golf. Senior standout Nemo Siebert secured her 4th individual state title this year. I first golfed with Nemo when she was in 6th grade, and I will tell you, I could not keep up with her then. So this is an incredible feat that solidifies her place as one of Vermont's most accomplished high school golfers. Nemo's dedication and composure on the course have inspired her teammates and set a shining example of excellence. Together, these teams and individuals represent the very best of Mount Mansfield Union High School. Their victories are not just about medals and trophies. They're about commitment, perseverance, and pride in representing their school and their community. And we're so glad to recognize their hard work and congratulate them on their well-deserved success.
Will the guest of the member from Jericho please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Berry City. Town.
Barrytown. Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have a very special guest here today. Ex-Representative Tom Koch. So on behalf of my seatmate, we would like to introduce our now constituent. Tom, when I first started here 21 years ago, gave me a lot of good ideas on how to operate in this building. And they've kept me in good stead throughout my career so far here. So if you would, Madam Speaker, help us welcome Tom to the House.
Will the former member please rise and be recognized? Member from Woodstock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It was with great pleasure that I received a text this morning alerting me to the fact that members of the Woodstock Union High School AP government class are here in the balcony. 28 students, which is quite a testament to the rigor and interest exhibited by their teacher, Stephen Smith, accompanied by also teacher Tom Emery. So I'd like to welcome them to the People's House here in Montpelier.
Will the guest of the member from Woodstock please rise and be recognized? Member from Bradford.
Madam Speaker, I have friends in the balcony, Marilyn and Skip Sturman, and their friends Bob and Karen Hickey are visiting the People's House today. If we could help welcome them.
Will the guest of the member from Bradford please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Springfield.
Madam Speaker, I would like to say a few words this morning. I didn't think it would be so difficult, but I would like to publicly thank my committee for totally embarrassing me in this chamber. It is very humbling, but I really want to appreciate each and every member of the committee for what they gave me yesterday. But what struck me the most was last evening, I was looking through the pictures that members had taken and sent to me. And, you know, folks, we are here in a very, very special place. And that came across in those pictures. I was seeing folks sitting at their seats, smiling, clapping, laughing. And what struck me is how lucky we are to be here and what it means for us to do work for our constituents, our community, and our state. And that is what binds us here. And we are a family. And when we finish our work soon to go home, we won't forget each other. And when we come back in January, we'll pick up where we left off. So I really would like, again, to publicly thank my committee with their little grins on their faces because they knew they embarrassed me. But I would also like to thank each and every one of you for making this General Assembly what it is. And don't forget, we are very special for what we have here, and let's hold on to it. Thank you.
And we appreciate and thank you, member. Are there any further announcements? Member from Chittenden.
Madam Speaker, I learned an important life lesson yesterday, and I also learned a little bit about technology. Yesterday, during a break, members of our committee, Madam Speaker, went down the road a little bit to get a creamy. It was a beautiful day. But I learned when a member from our committee, we got over there, we got in line, and the member, I won't say who it is to protect his identity, but his town begins with a B, so. We get in line, and he gets a text message from home. Are you at the creamy stand? And I thought, whoa. I need to learn how to turn off my location device. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. Members, to update you on what bills will be taking up on our action calendar, we will be taking up S-124, an act relating to miscellaneous agricultural subjects, and House Resolution 9. After we complete those two votes, we will recess and come back at 1 p.m. So with that, we will begin with Senate Bill 124, which is an act relating to miscellaneous agricultural subjects. The bill was referred to the Committee on Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry, which recommends that the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as printed in today's calendar. The member from Shaftesbury, Representative Durfee, will speak for the committee. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Environment, which recommends that the report of the Committee on Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Burlington, Representative Logan, will speak for that committee. And then affecting the revenue of the state, the bill was then referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, which recommends that the bill ought to pass in concurrence with the proposal of amendment recommended by the Committee on Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry when further amended as recommended by the Committee on Environment. The member from Thetford, Representative Maslin, will speak for that committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
S-124, an act relating to miscellaneous agricultural subjects.
Member from Shaftesbury.
Madam Speaker, S-124 is titled an act relating to miscellaneous agricultural subjects. Every year, the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets brings a list of statutory amendment requests to the House and Senate Committees on Agriculture. These are usually for technical edits related to the operation of the agency and typically span multiple subjects. This year, the requested changes that were taken up by the other body focus on a single subject matter, agricultural water quality. Most of the bill seeks to bring the state into compliance with the Federal Clean Water Act. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency grants most states, including Vermont, the authority to enforce the Clean Water Act. While the EPA has specifically delegated this responsibility to the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources, in practice, the Agency of Agriculture has historically played a key role in regulating water quality on farms in Vermont. Over the years, that has resulted in a certain level of conflict and disagreement, which led about a decade ago to the issuance of a formal memo of understanding between the two agencies outlining how enforcement was to be carried out. Questions about the adequacy of enforcement remained, however, and last September, the EPA informed the Agency of Natural Resources that it has not been adequately regulating and permitting discharges of wastes from what are called concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs. Under current law, farms are prohibiting from having these discharges. However, EPA asserts that discharges are in fact occurring and that under the Federal Clean Water Act, ANR, as the Vermont agency delegated by the EPA to issue Federal Clean Water Act permits, must start issuing CAFO permits or risk the loss of the entire Clean Water Act permitting system that has been delegated to the state. To address its concerns, the EPA instructed the Agency of Natural Resources to submit a corrective action plan that met a list of 7 requirements. First, ANR personnel must inspect all potentially jurisdictional farms to determine if a CAFO permit is required. ANR personnel must review nutrient management plans and issue CAFO permits consistent with state and federal requirements. ANR must comprehensively track permitting, monitoring, and enforcement actions. ANR must take enforcement steps against farms that are discharging without a permit. ANR must have sufficient personnel to fully implement the foregoing requirements in a timely manner. Sixth, ANR must seek the necessary statutory and regulatory authority to fully implement the requirements of the Clean Water Act. And finally, ANR must include a reasonable but expeditious timeline, including a date certain for the completion of corrective action plan. Pursuant to the 6th item on the list, and at the request of both agencies, S-124 amends agricultural water quality statute to address the EPA concerns that can be met through statute. S-124 clarifies and amplifies ANR's authority as the lead Clean Water Act permitting authority in Vermont for discharges from CAFOs, while also retaining authority at the Agency of Agriculture for runoff from fields, which are classified as non-point source agriculture pollutant discharges. Our strike all amendment, which begins on page 3971 of today's calendar, is nearly identical to the bill passed by the Senate, with a couple of minor changes that I will point out as we walk through the bill. The first 6 sections make changes to Title VI, which deals with agriculture, amending the Agricultural Agency's water quality authority. Section 1 deals with cooperation and coordination between the Agency of Agriculture and the Agency of Natural Resources. It strikes the existing requirement that the two agencies enter a memo of understanding describing how both agencies will implement the federal CAFO program. In its place, new language in Section 1 directs ANR in consultation with the EPA and the Agency of Agriculture to issue a new document that sets forth ANR's roles and responsibilities in implementing the Clean Water Act, and the Agency of Agriculture's roles and responsibilities in implementing the state's non-point source program on farms. In the last sentence of Section 1, our committee amendment strikes a vestigial reference to the MOU that the Senate had overlooked. Section 2 amends Agriculture Water Quality Statute to provide that the vegetated buffer requirements under AAFM's authority shall not apply to any farm that is determined by ANR to be a CAFO. Section 3 clarifies that ANR is the state entity that will determine if discharges are occurring on large farms. Section 3 also provides that if the Agency of Agriculture determines that a farm may be discharging, the agency immediately shall refer the potential discharge to ANR for a response, according to the Clean Water Act CAFO rules. If there is a discharge, ANR can require the farm to obtain a CAFO permit. If no CAFO permit is required, ANR notifies the Agency of Agriculture. Section 3 also clarifies that under the definition of a large farm, 2 or more farms under common ownership and adjoining will be treated as one farm to avoid farms circumventing permitting requirements by moving animals between farms. And Section 3 finally provides that a person required to obtain a large CAFO permit is not required to pay the $2,500 large farm operation permit fee to the Agency of Agriculture. Section 4 clarifies that ANR shall verify whether a medium farm operation can establish that there are no unpermitted discharges on the farm. Section 4 also provides that if the Agency of Agriculture determines an MFO may be discharging, the agency immediately shall refer the discharge to ANR, the potential discharge to ANR, for a response. Section 4 provides that ANR has authority to direct a medium farm operation to obtain a CAFO permit. As with large farms, if a farm is not required to obtain a CAFO permit, ANR notifies the Agency of Agriculture. And in that case, the Agency of Agriculture maintains jurisdiction. Section 4 also strikes a reference to the existing memo of understanding between the two agencies. Sections 5 and 6 are not related to the EPA requirements, but both deal with water quality. Section 5 amends the existing ban on the land application of manure between December 15th and April 1st to allow the Agency of Agriculture to authorize an emergency exemption from the ban. Emergencies usually occur when a storage facility fails or farm exhausts manure storage capacity due to weather conditions or other factors, such as farmer health. The Agriculture Committee added language to the Senate version of the bill clarifying that an emergency exemption must be issued according to criteria in the required agricultural practices. Section 6 clarifies that the Agriculture Agency may require any new small farm to certify compliance with the RAPs. Those are the required agricultural practices. And that the Agency of Agriculture may require any farm to regularly certify ongoing compliance with the requirements. Madam Speaker, the remainder of the bill deals with changes to Title 10 and amend the Agency of Natural Resources authority over CAFO discharges. In the spirit of the shift in oversight authority that this bill represents, I would now like to yield to the member from Burlington.
The member from Shaftesbury yields to the member from Burlington.
I thank the member. Section 7 through 12 of the amendment or of the bill amend the Agency of Natural Resources authority over concentrated animal feeding operation discharges. Begins with Section 7, and that is page 3980 in your action calendar. Section 7 amends state water pollution control definitions in Title 10, clarifies that a discharge applies to both wastes and pollutants. Currently, only discharges of waste are prohibited, but the Federal Clean Water Act prohibits discharges of pollutants. This change will allow for easier implementation of the CAFO discharge permit. Section 7 also adds new definitions of continuous discharge, daily discharge, and pollutant for consistency with the Federal Clean Water Act. It also defines waters as waters of the state. Moving on to Section 8, amending Chapter 47 of Title 10 includes a new subchapter 3A on concentrated animal feeding operations. It adds a definition section that is specific to the Agency of Natural Resources regulation of CAFOs. The key definitions are animal feeding operation, large CAFO, medium CAFO, and small CAFO. The definitions in Title 10 are more restrictive than those found in the Agricultural Water Quality chapter of Title 6 and entirely focus on the Agency of Natural Resources Agricultural Water Quality Regulatory Authority over CAFOs. You can see the definitions there in Section 8. An animal feeding operation is a facility where animals will be stabled or confined and fed or maintained for a total of 45 days or more in a year. A large CAFO means an animal feeding operation that houses 700 or more mature dairy animals and a number of other conditions that would make them require a CAFO permit. A medium CAFO means an animal feeding operation that houses 200 to 699 mature dairy animals and would require a CAFO permit because of their discharges via point source or into waters that originate outside of or pass over, across, or through a facility or otherwise come into direct contact with animals confined in the operation. And a small CAFO means a small animal feeding operation designated as a small CAFO by the Secretary upon determining that the AFO is a significant contributor of pollutants to waters of the state. Section 8 also adds a definition of waters of the United States to reference under the definition under the Federal Clean Water Act. The next subsection of Section 8 sets forth the powers of the Secretary of ANR to regulate discharges from CAFOs, including the authority to implement the Vermont pollution discharge. Why am I forgetting my acronym? The VIFTES permit. I'll just adopt rules and guidance to administer the program, designate an AFO that meets the definition of a CAFO as a CAFO, designate any small animal feeding operation as a CAFO after an on-site inspection. Section 8 also clarifies that discharge of manure, litter, or processed wastewater to waters of the state from a CAFO as a result of the application of that manure, litter, or process is a discharge from that CAFO subject to a permit requirement, except when they're operating in accordance with a site-specific nutrient management plan approved by the Secretary of the ANR. Does have a precipitation related part that makes a discharge an exempt agricultural stormwater discharge only when the manure litter or processed wastewater has been applied in accordance with their nutrient management plan. Requires all MFOs and LFOs to maintain documentation of their nutrient management plan and practices on site and make that documentation readily available to the Secretary. The next subsection also provides that the presumption that a farm is in compliance with required agricultural practices does not apply to any animal feeding operation that ANR determines to be a CAFO. Then moving on to Section 9, Community Stakeholder Group on Agricultural Water Quality. By next year, Agency of Natural Resources, in coordination with Agriculture, Farm and Markets, must engage key agricultural stakeholders as part of a pre-rulemaking process to gather input on proposed CAFO rules. The stakeholder engagement process will include opportunities for the agricultural community, including livestock farmers, farm and watershed groups, and consultants to share their input on the implementation of the CAFO program, how to align the CAFO program most effectively with the Agency of Agriculture, Farm and Markets, water quality regulatory programs, how to best create regulatory clarity for agricultural producers for the long term within a two-agency regulatory system or through a full transfer of regulatory authority to one agency. The resources, technical assistance, and regulatory structure necessary to create a path to compliance for agricultural producers that maintain CAFO operations, and feedback on implementing regulatory structures similar to other states, including New York. That report is due back to us by February 15th, 2026. Then moving on to sections 10 and 11, these are primarily conforming amendments. Section 10 amends existing Agency of Natural Resource discharge permit authority to clarify that compliance with the RAPS alone is not sufficient to exempt a farm from a permit. The farm also must be determined to be complying with the Federal Clean Water Act. Section 10 strikes a reference to the MOU between ANR and the Agency of Agriculture, Farm and Markets and replaces the MOU with a document setting forth the responsibilities and duties of each agency. Then in section 11, this amends the ANR section related to discharge permits to clarify that a person must apply for a CAFO permit when necessary for discharge from CAFOs, directs ANR no later than July 1st, 2026 to issue a CAFO permit application, authorizes ANR to request any additional information from a farm necessary to process the permit. ANR may direct a farm to apply for an individual or general permit. ANR shall require nutrient management plans for all CAFOs and shall include the plans in the permits for public comment in accordance with the program. And once a farm is covered under a CAFO permit, it is covered for the 5-year duration of the permit. And now I'll yield back to the member from Shaftesbury.
The member from Burlington yields to the member from Shaftesbury.